its mark on medieval culture has just begun. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. If you ever wish to know the thrill of commanding champions into battle, then we strongly recommend you check out the mobile game Raid Shadow Legends. Free-to-play Raid Shadow Legends places you in Teleria, a land forsaken by darkness. With 16 factions and over 300 champions to choose from, it falls on you to strategize millions of other physical start to win glory. It's late September of the year 768. Frankish nobility have gathered in the Basilica of St. Denis to witness the funeral ceremony of the recently deceased King Pepin the Short, who successfully ruled over the Frankish realm for nearly 3 decades. Among those that attended the funeral were 2 of the heirs to the late King Pepin, ambitious brothers Charles and Carloman, who, according to Frankish custom, were both to inherit their father's throne and jointly rule the kingdom. The modern consensus is that Pepin's sons barely tolerated each other, and soon this lack of brotherly affection proved to be a threat to the unity of the Frankish kingdom. Shortly after the change to the Frankish throne, a revolt broke out in Aquitaine, which was under the joint rule of both brothers. Both were expected to react to this issue, yet Carloman retreated back north in the wake of his quarrels with Charles. From that point on, their relationship deteriorated even further, requiring their mother to mediate between them. Unsurprisingly, this lack of unity between rulers was to the detriment of the Frankish state, and internal crisis loomed on the horizon. But in 771, the younger brother Carloman suddenly died, apparently from natural causes, which was certainly suspicious as he was only 20 at the time. Shady or not, the death of Carloman was all too convenient for Charles, who became the sole king of the Franks, and immediately began to consolidate his power along with making plans to extend his kingdom. It's fair to say that Charles was a right man in the right place, a man of impressive physical presence, quick-witted and energetic, strong-willed, but also jovial at the banquet table. These traits secured the loyalty of many Frankish nobles across his broad kingdom. Fortunate to inherit a relatively stable domain, Charles undertook a number of military campaigns to extend his political reach and satiate personal ambitions. He answered the appeal of the newly elected Pope Adrian, a convenient excuse to invade and subdue the neighboring kingdom of the Lombards. Although it took him several years to fully incorporate the northern Italian region into the Frankish realm, Charles simultaneously campaigned on the eastern frontier, pitting himself against pagan Saxons, long-time opponents of the Franks. The Saxons' unbending attitude and heavily wooded lands between the Rhine and Elbe rivers didn't make the task any easier, and the war to the east preoccupied a good part of Charles's military potential for many years to come. In late 777, a Frankish diet met in Paderborn to discuss the issues concerning the subdued Saxons and other tribes. Apart from regular lawmaking duties, King Charles had received envoys of discontented Muslim provincial governors of Al-Andalus, seeking military assistance against the rising power of the Emirate of Cordoba, the biggest and strongest state on the other side of the Pyrenees. Charles saw this as a promising opportunity to extend his rule into northern Iberia and agreed to help. Early the next year, a 2-pronged Frankish invasion crossed the Pyrenees. While the eastern contingent marched to capture the city of Barcelona, Charles personally led the second army, aiming to take Pamplona, a traditional Basque stronghold currently occupied by an Umayyad garrison. The attack was hardly a challenge, as the city's defenses were in poor condition, and in no time Charles's men overwhelmed the garrison. The campaign went smoothly, and both Frankish armies were to rendezvous near Zaragoza, a much more formidable fortress. Upon reaching the outskirts of the city, Charles realized that the local governor was not going to submit to the Franks, and thus a siege was laid. Despite having enough men to fully encircle the stronghold, Charles had little siege equipment at his disposal to soften the Muslim governor and take the city in a timely manner, so the siege and entire campaign in northern Iberia stalled. Yet after a month of maintaining a fruitless blockade, Charles was offered a considerable amount of gold and hostages in exchange for the Franks leaving the city. At first, he hesitated to accept this offer, but upon hearing reports that the Saxons were on the verge of another rebellion on the other end of his kingdom, he hesitated no longer, lifted the siege, and departed on his journey back home. On the way back, Charles's path once again led through Pamplona, where he took fairly harsh measures to subdue the disobedient Basque population, as he had heard rumors of collusion between locals and the Umayyad officials. The already damaged city walls were razed to the ground to prevent Pamplona from being used as a center of possible future unrest. In addition, upon leaving the region, some nearby Basque towns and villages were set ablaze, undoubtedly enraging and antagonizing the local population. The consequences of these actions were to hit the Frankish king far sooner than he might have imagined. In the middle of August, the Frankish army was traveling the narrow passes of the Pyrenees, looking forward to finally setting foot in Gaul. Due to their large numbers, the column stretched over several kilometers throughout the mountains. The heavily loaded baggage train lagged slightly behind the main body, also slowing down the rear guard, which consisted of mainly well-trained and heavily armored cavalrymen meant to defend the loot stored on the carts. Eventually, in an inopportune moment of rest, hundreds of javelins, arrows, and other missiles rained down upon the exposed Frankish rear guard, caught completely by surprise. Countless Basque tribesmen stormed down the hills and struck the stretched line of the unprepared Frankish cavalrymen, immediately causing chaos among their ranks. Basque mountain warriors, wearing virtually no armor and wielding little more than short spears, would ordinarily pose no threat to Frankish mounted units on an open field in traditional battle, but thanks to extensive knowledge of the local terrain and using the element of surprise, they quickly gained an upper hand over the nominally superior Franks. In a matter of minutes, the battle turned into a slaughter. Gradually, Frankish warriors tried to force their way out of the onslaught and save their very lives. Yet out of roughly 2,000 men in the rear guard, only mere dozens survived. King Charles was immediately informed about the ambush, but he could do nothing to save his rear guard, which was virtually wiped out. Many Frankish nobles and some high officials perished in the narrow mountain passage. Moreover, the majority of war supplies and all of the gold he had acquired from Zaragoza was lost. In the span of a few hours, Charles's moderately successful campaign in Iberia turned into deep humiliation. The Battle of Roncesvalles Pass was a rare example of a setback in the otherwise brilliant military career of Charles the Great. In fact, it remained the only major defeat he suffered throughout his reign, and probably because of that, he avoided leading any campaigns on the other side of the Pyrenees in the years to come. He relied more on his generals instead, whose military efforts eventually led to the creation of the Spanish March, a buffer zone between the Frankish kingdom and the Emirate of Cordoba.
Well, I learned something. I saw it twice, but any thoughts? It gives us a little more detail between what's different between our book and the real events. What did you notice? Any particular details? Yeah.
Well, the tribesmen that attacked the rear guard, I don't think it said they were related in any way to the Emirate.
Yeah, they're called Basques, B-A-S-Q-U-E-S, and there's a part of Spain today called Basques, and I think from this time period to today, they have wanted to be separate from the Spanish. They still exist as a group. So it wasn't in our book. Who is it that's attacking the French rear guard? the Saracens, which are Muslims. Now the Basque, I don't know if they're Muslims or not, but they're, it's not as it appears in the book. So that's one major difference. What else? Anything else you notice? Anything else you notice that's true? That's correct? Yeah.
Charles the Great was offered a reward for leaving Zaragoza.
He was bribed, so to speak, to leave Spain. That's true. And Zaragoza has become Saragossa in our book. They pronounce rendezvous. I didn't know that. I still like rendezvous, but so the battle is very much the same, except notice that the rear guard isn't stationary. The rear guard follows the army through the pass and is attacked in the pass, whereas in our book, it seems to me that the rear guard is stationary. It's guarding the pass more than it's guarding the army in the pass, and it gets attacked there. What seems to be the purpose of Charlemagne's invasion in reality of Spain? Why did he go in the first place? In our book, why did he go? Why is he in Spain in the first place? Yeah. He was there, remember, he was there before he decided to get his revenge. Anybody know why he's in our book? Why is he, remember, he'd been there 7 years in the book. It says here only several months, not even a whole year. So that's another huge difference. Remember, he's going to eliminate Islam from Spain. He wants to wipe out the Saracens. It's all a religious war. Here it doesn't seem that way at all. He was invited by some of the Spanish to do it. That's not true in the book. Yeah, it seems a lot smaller in reality than as Ryan said, over a period of 200 years, things do change. So go ahead and get out your book. I don't know if there's anything else you noticed. I like maps. You have a lot of, well, I noticed you had a map quiz a few weeks ago, right? Did you have a map quiz?
We did, that's what goes in that one. Wait, no, we didn't.
I saw the map, Toulouse, because I'm pretty sure the little horned cat is an aristocats.
Okay. That's all right. I like it. All right, so if you will turn to your book, just a reminder that what we're reading is not history, it's literature.
Are you taking your
I may wait since I don't have a lot of time. So just hang on to your questions, I'll get to them. We are on page 128. I don't know if I have to, but I feel like I have to yell when I got this thing up. I don't think I do, so forgive me. Why is he yelling at us all the time? It's I can't hear people sometimes with the mask on, so I assume you can't hear me. Yeah.
I got the wrong book.
Okay. So we are on page 128, number 150. Again, it'd be a great question. This could be a whole essay in this to point out not only the differences between literature and history, but the reasons why. You know, the whole purpose of this book is propaganda. So it's an effort to make people in France want to join the Crusades, which took place, started about 1100. And so the book makes the Muslims look really bad, so people will hate them, so they'll go fight against them. Well, in rally, that wasn't it at all.
Do we ever answer 53?
Would you read it?
What is the effect of the research that the author performed in passage 146 to 148?
Let's see, 46, 148. I think, let's see, what is it? I think it's just to point out Oliver's dying. It's to make us feel sympathy for Oliver. So let me start at the bottom. Oliver, he's not dead yet, but he will be in a few lines.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oliver feels the coming pangs of death. Both of his eyes are turning in his head. Now he is blind wholly and wholly deaf. He lights from his horse and to his knees he gets, and makes confession loud and beats his breast. Then clasps his hands and lifts them up to heaven. In paradise he prays God give him rest. And France the fair and Carlin praise him bless, and his companion Roland above all men, his heartstrings crack. He stoops his knightly helm and sinks to earth and lies there all his length. Dead is the count. Circle that. Make a note of that.
Where?
Top of page 129. Dead is the count. You got it right there. I like when I'm teaching a book. I like to for there to be proof. I don't want you to take my word for it. That's why I'm asking you to circle things. Here's proof that he's dead. Don't take my word for it. It says it right here. The only way in literature you can prove something is did it say it or not. His days have reached their end. The valiant Roland weeps for him and laments. No man on earth felt ever such distress. Why don't we go with Matthew's name, 151.
When Roland sees his friend and comrade die, and on the ground face down beholds him lie, with tender words he bids him thus goodbye. Sir, my companion, what worth your valiant might? Long years and days have we lived side by side. Never didst thou wrong me, nor suffer wrong of mine. Now thou art dead, I grieve to be alive. Having this said, the Marquis swoons outright. On his steed's back, the valiantest is height. He kept from falling by the gold stirrups bright. So, go as he may, they hold him still upright.
So he is talking to the body of Oliver. What is the literary device?
That's kind of like weird.
What is the literary device? In poetry, when you talk to something or someone who cannot talk back, what do you call it?
Like when the guy was talking to the earth and they were.
Yeah, what do you
The
call it?
observation point.
It's a form of personification, but that's not what we call it.
I forgot.
All right, write it down. Apostrophe, like the little punctuation mark to show possession. It's spelled the same, it's pronounced the same, it doesn't mean the same. All right, Tim, you're next.
Alright, or ever Roland comes to himself again, and has recovered and rallied from his faint, fearful disaster, his fortunes have sustained, all of the French are lost to him, and slain, sold the Archbishop, and Walter home remained.
How many are left?
Three.
Yeah, the first word "so" I think is a reference to, I know it's a reference to Roland. Roland's one of the remaining three. You can keep reading.
Walter has come down from the heights again. Well, has he striven against the men of Spain? His men are dead, mown down by the pain of blades. Will he or nill he flees toward the vale, and upon Roland he cries aloud for aid. Where art thou, where, great country, warrior brave? While thou wast there, I never was dismayed. Walter am I, who male gut o'ercame. Nephew, I am to Droon, white with age. Thou, for my valor, wast wont to love me, I. My lance is shattered, my shield is split in twain. Battered and broken is my hauberk of mail. A spear has pierced me through the midst of my reins. Death is upon me, yet dear I made them pay. Lo, at the world Roland hears him and wakes. He spurs his horse and comes to him in haste.
Look at question number 55. He says, death is upon me, my dear, yet dear I make them pay. How does this sentence encapsulate the Franks' attitude toward the battle? Yeah.
The Franks are losing the battle, but they're still like taking out a lot of the army and everything. So
Yeah, they're
kind of winning a little bit.
They're gonna have to earn it. Notice these business terms. You're gonna have to make them pay. They're gonna have to earn it. These are, war's a business too, and revenge. So would you do 153?
Roland is filled with grief and anger sore. In the thick breast he now renews his war. Of those of Spain, he's overthrown a score, and Walter 6, the Archbishop 5 more. The Paynims say these men are worst of all. Let none escape alive, look to it, lords. Who fears the onset, let shame be his reward. Who lets these go, may he be put on scorn. Then once again the hue and cry beneath forth, from every side poured in the Paynim hordes.
So write the word hue and cry. I'm making a list of extra credit, or maybe not extra credit, but make a list of words that I'll ask you that aren't on your list. Hue and cry means alarm. So if you raise a hue and cry, that means you're raising some sort of alarm. Could be shouting, whatever. All right, Bronwyn.
The county Roland is mighty of his mood, Walter de Hum, well famed for knightlyhood, and the Archbishop a warrior tried and proved, that wits their valors.
Betwixt. It's between is what it means.
Their valors, there's not a thing to choose, in the thick press they smite the Moorish crew. 1,000 Paynims dismount to fight on foot, and 40,000 horsemen they have to boot. Yet gainst these three, my troth, they fear to move. They hurl against them their lances from aloof. Javelins, dreeds, darts, shafts, and spears they lose. In the first shock, brave Walter meets his doom. Turpin of Reims has his shield split in two. His helm is broken. His head passed in a wound. His hauberks pierced. The mail rings burst and strewn. By 4 sharp spears his breast is stricken through. Killed under him his horse rolls neck and croup. The Archbishop's down. Woe with the bitter duel.
Who were the remaining three?
Bishop, Walter, and Roland.
All right, roll those three, and Walter just died.
No.
He's surrounded by 1,000 dismounted Saracens, and then there are 40,000 mounted. And I don't think I think Roland is still on his horse. All right, Abby. All right, so only 2 of them left, and Turpin has 4 spears in it. So they don't have much of a chance, but we'll pick this up here at 1:56 tomorrow. I will check the questions tomorrow, and we'll see you then.
Oh, I gotta write so much. Yo, baby.
You're done.
Wow, thanks for the encouragement, everyone.
Is that a second one?
Sorry, but that's.
Yes.
Oh, you're really done.